This episode is sponsored by Turn Gymnastics Apparel, the brand dedicated solely to the sport of men's gymnastics. Choose Turn this season to outfit your team with industry-leading design concepts and elevated options for elite performance. Get the design process started today. Visit turn-gymnastics.com to discover the latest possibilities. Turn. Never done perfecting. Thank you, Turn, for supporting the Sam Oldham podcast. Supporting Turn helps us bring you new content every single week from the world of gymnastics. I hope you enjoy this episode of the Sam Oldham podcast. Today, I'm joined by Ian Gunther. He is a four-time NCAA champion with Stanford University and their men's gymnastics team. He's also amassed a massive following online, creating gymnastics content on Instagram. He has a huge following on YouTube. I think you have, if I'm right, Ian, correct me if I'm wrong, nearly 1.5 million subscribers, and you've got almost 2 or over 2 billion views on TikTok, which is absolutely incredible. So, Ian, thank you for coming on today, mate. Just for the people listening that maybe don't know who you are, don't know your story, just tell us a little bit about your background, Ian, within the sport of gymnastics, and then we're going to get into your story, and hopefully we will explain that for everybody listening today.
Sweet. Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, I can talk a little bit about that. Like most, started gymnastics super young. I was like 4 or 5. It was actually my 5th birthday party, so I was like just turning 5. And right after that, started lessons and started competing when I was 7. Made my way to Stanford. I was there on the team for 5 years. While at Stanford, I started creating content and kind of been doing that for 4 years. And that's me in a nutshell, I guess.
Yeah. And Ian, just tell us a little bit before we go back to the beginning and how you got into gymnastics and your early experiences. Just tell everybody a little bit about your summer. You've had a very exciting summer, right? You've been out to Paris for the Olympic Games. What was your role when you were there in Paris, Ian?
Yeah, well, this summer has been crazy. I think, almost every gymnast has a dream to go to the Olympic Games and compete. And of course, like that was my dream as well. But I was able to go and just as a spectator and as a fan and supporting some of my best friends out there competing. And I met so many amazing athletes, like all around the world and a bunch of different sports. So I just went really as a fan. I went to make content, and it worked out amazing. Like, it was one of the best experiences of my life. I'm so glad I went. I was there from opening to closing ceremonies. Amazing. So I was there for a while, but it was phenomenal.
It did look like you have an amazing time, mate. I almost lived your experience vicariously through social media. What did you fund that trip yourself, Ian, when you went out, or was it supported by USA Gymnastics or anybody like that? Or was it your job to be there and produce content? Because what you're doing now in producing content and being involved with these big events is something that's pretty new to the sport of gymnastics, right? Like, I can't think of anybody else that's maybe doing that. In the UK, we've had Niall Wilson, that became a big content creator online, but certainly has never been to a big major championships like that with the intent of creating content, not being a gymnast himself. So was there like a specific plan to create content when you went out there? And was that just you decided to do that yourself, or was it supported by, USA Gymnastics or the American Olympic Committee?
Yeah, I tried really hard to get someone to send me. I applied to like a million different opportunities with YouTube, TikTok. I asked like USAG, a bunch of other people. No one sent me, so I sent myself. I guess I just self-funded. I realized like it would be great for. There are, so many benefits to going with content and just like everything else with the business. And also it's like, how many times you get to go to an Olympic Games, and Paris was such a cool host city. So, and it's a once in a lifetime opportunity to watch like your best friends compete in the games. So I had to go. Stanford University actually helped me get, and Andrew Luck, shout out Andrew and Nicole. They kind of helped fund some of the tickets. So I went to see a lot of gymnastics events. Okay. So they helped me with tickets. And then I was helping Stanford do some content with like their mascot, the
Yeah.
Stanford tree.
Okay.
So they put me up in a hotel for like 4 days and helped me with some stuff there. But other than that, I funded the trip myself.
Well, that's amazing, mate. That's super interesting as well, because I'm going to ask a few questions a bit later on about how you got into creating content. And, I think a lot of people probably see someone like yourself that creates content online and thinks, yeah, I could do that. But they don't see the hard work that goes in behind the scenes and how long it takes maybe before you get that first video or clip or piece of content that starts to go viral. There's a lot of work before that, right? And
Oh
sometimes
yeah.
sometimes I think it feel like can feel like you're maybe not making it and you feel very unsuccessful and you have to have a few hits at the ball before it starts to work. So I'm going to ask you about that a bit later on. But just tell me a little bit, Ian, about what it's like in the US when you start gymnastics at the club level. Are the clubs very competitive? Because I think we have a very different structure here in the UK. It's not typical for athletes to go to university in the UK, so you only really ever represent your clubs. What is it like? What's that system like when you start gymnastics in America, Ian?
Yeah, I realized I didn't answer the second half of your question about if I had content planned for Paris. Do you want me to answer that
Yeah, go for it,
or?
mate. Yeah, yeah, sure.
um, no, I didn't
Okay.
have anything planned. It was, I mean, I had like a general idea of what I wanted to do, but before I went to Paris, I was like, I'm sure that I'll have so much time because the only thing I really had planned was going to a few events. But I only
Mhm.
had like 3 tickets. Um, and then once I got there, like everyone was just flying by the seat of their pants. Like everything was so last minute. Like, oh, by the way, there's this event tomorrow morning. Do you want to come? I'm like, yeah, I'll go. And then, oh, I have extra tickets to like, this sport tomorrow. Do you want to go? I was like, sure. Like I assumed because the Olympics have been planned there for like 10 years,
Yeah,
everything would already be scheduled out.
sure.
That was not the case at all. So I ended up being so busy, I didn't even get to post like as much content as I initially wanted to. But I didn't really come in with much of a plan. I wanted to do a lot around like how to watch gymnastics, more kind of something that could help like the lay viewer watch and
Mm,
understand and appreciate the sport more, when it's televised.
yeah,
And I did some of that, but I definitely would have liked to do more while it was super relevant. Like, how do you understand gymnastics at the
yeah.
Olympics? But yeah, overall, I had like my biggest month ever in terms of views
Really?
and
Wow. Okay.
everything by probably like order of 3 times. So it worked out. It worked out well, but I do kind of wish I had more time to create more content when I was there. But yeah, I didn't really have a plan. And then to answer your question about the club system, um, I wouldn't say it's like super competitive. We do like club team championships,
Okay.
but I feel like at least in like the paradigm we have now, there's usually one, two, or three clubs that are really dominant in the U.S. and it's not usually too much of a surprise when like it's not usually a surprise of who's the winner.
Okay.
I don't know if it's super. Definitely, the NCAA system is really competitive,
Yeah.
but I think club is a little bit less so. It's hard. It's almost so long ago. It's hard to
Yeah,
think
it
back.
almost seems to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, that because the coaches are very aware that they're going to pass most of their athletes on to universities, that it's a little bit more collaborative in the early stages of your career when you're working at clubs, right? Like, I think in the UK, typically, a lot of coaches will start with an athlete at maybe the age of 7 or 8, and they will take them the whole way through their career.
Mm.
Whereas I'm guessing a lot of you guys are going to go to college, going to go to university. So at 16, 17, 18, those coaches are going to hand those gymnasts over anyway to a new group of coaches for 4 or 5 years. So one thing I did notice when I started to go to the US to do competitions, and also I was invited to go to a summer camp called IGC, so the International Gymnastics Camp, and I went there as an
Mhm.
athlete and I would coach throughout the week, that it seemed like it was quite a common thing in America for kids to go to summer camps for the summer. Is that something you did when you were younger and doing gymnastics, Ian?
Yeah, I went to Flip Fest
Okay.
as a kid, and that was always like so fun. I think I understand like now where you're coming with seeing how one coach will coach you from the time you're 7 to, I guess, you retire. It's definitely
Yeah.
not like that in the US.
Okay.
It's a lot more collaborative. Even not just in club, I think, throughout your whole career, I don't know how it is, the rest of the world, but at least in the US, it's like other people from other colleges, you give them tips, you give them, like, someone will even just DM you and like, dude, I'm trying to learn this skill, or like, hey, I'm in town. Can I come train at the Stanford gym?
Yeah.
From, someone from another university. It's like, of course you come in, coaches will coach them just as if, they're their own gymnasts. It's like, of course we're still competitive with them,
Yeah.
but I think everyone sees the bigger picture at the end of the day. Like, gymnastics is a small sport. NCAA gymnastics is even smaller community,
Mhm.
and we just want we just want to uplift everybody. We don't want to like hold anyone back or anything like that. So I think, yeah, the culture here is pretty collaborative like that. It's usually everyone's just trying to uplift
Yeah,
uplift
maybe
all the
that talks
athletes.
to the difference in cultures, I think, Ian, because in the UK, I was having this conversation earlier today. There's a little bit of like crabs in a bucket in that
Mm,
people don't want to see other people be successful because they feel like that's taking something away from me. Whereas the impression I get from certainly like American athletes is like, everyone wants everyone to do well, and they really like celebrate a success story. We do that in the UK as well, but we're quite quick to tear people down like as soon as they
it's like
get too big for their boots. So maybe that is why maybe in the UK typically you kind of stay within your clubs a little bit more. It's maybe a little bit more segregated, I would
mm,
say. That's been my experience anyway in recent years. But maybe in the US it's a bit more collaborative between different coaches from different universities. Do you think maybe that's also because as a program, Ian, and as a sport, do you feel like the team is at the top of that pyramid and that is the main focus, and then maybe individual success comes after that? What would you say? I think as an outsider from the UK, watching you guys compete this year at the Olympic Games and also last year at the World Championships, it certainly felt to me like the priority is the team result, and then if we have great individual success, that comes as a byproduct. Whereas I would argue potentially that's a little bit more distorted in the UK. I don't think anyone's quite sure as a system as men's gymnastics. Are we targeting the team result or individual? What are we doing? So, yeah, if you could
mm.
explain that, would be really, really helpful.
That's really interesting to hear that side of things over there. Um, I can only speak from my own experience and from just talking with like my teammates and the guys on the Olympic, some of the guys on the Olympic team. It seems like from the Olympic side of things, it's very much like team is above all, and then the better I want to contribute to the team as much as I can, and when I in doing so and contributing to the team, I'm gonna have like good results as an individual. Um, that's definitely how it feels from them, and I can speak from NCAA at Stanford. That was like 1,000% the
Yeah,
mindset. You live and die by the team. You just want to, yeah, uplift your teammates as much as possible, even though like you're competing against them at the end of the day for other NCAA individual accolades. They really don't matter. And I think if you had what you were kind of describing, like the tall poppy syndrome, where if you see another teammate be successful, like you just want to put them down, or like that means they're taking away something from you. Like, it is not. We never look at it like a zero sum game.
okay.
It's like if my teammate is in the U.S. or in college or wherever, if my teammate is doing really well, like, well, one, I want to learn from that, but two, it also benefits me because, um, he's benefiting the team at the end of the day. I'm part of
Yeah.
the team. Like, how can I learn more from him? How can I like, how can I uplift him to continue doing well for the team? And I think, yeah, the culture at Stanford, my 5 years competing there, I couldn't have imagined, a better team, a better culture. It was absolutely phenomenal. Like, everybody was on the same page. There were no outliers. I was on the team with my class, like Brody Malone and Karen Phillips, you might know, some like
Yeah.
really amazing gymnasts. And just from the start, everyone really bought into the team culture, and I think that's why we're successful. Um, I mean, with all the NCAA circuit, and then we produced so many amazing athletes on the individual level. But the team was always the North Star for sure.
Yeah, it must have been an amazing time, Ian, to be at Stanford University, right? You guys have had so much success in that short period of time. What do you think those differences were? Do you think that you just had a real good group of talented athletes? Was it the coaching setup and the way that the coaches structured the training plan? Was it having very well thought out goals for the team overall? What do you put that success down to? In because how many was it? 4 in a row or five in a row you were going for this year?
They they just did 5 in a row. I wasn't on the team this year because
Okay.
I graduated. We did 4 in a row over 5 years because COVID in 2020 the
Yep.
championships were canceled. But we were like, in my opinion, we're way ahead of everyone else. I think we would have won that year too. So implied fifth year,
Yeah.
but I guess this year was the real fifth year that we won in a row, and they're going for the sixth this coming year, which will be crazy. No one's done six. I think people are tired of seeing Stanford win, frankly. But um, I mean, not to sound like a broken record, but I would have to attribute it to the team culture.
Okay.
Especially in 2019 when I first 2018 2019 year when I first got to Stanford, we weren't the most talented team. Oklahoma University had incredible athletes like Ewell Moldauer and a bunch of other amazing athletes, and they were just actually going for their fifth year in a row as well. So OU is like they're actually, I think they're more talented than we were, um, but yeah, we had like such a good team culture. Everyone was on the same page. And then you also mentioned like goal setting from day one. Like we do a little team retreat before the first day of practice.
Okay.
And in the team retreat, like everyone got together and was like, are we going to be that team that is going to, take down this dynasty of what OU has built? And like, are we going to be that team that is going to shoot for a national championship? Because everyone needs to be on the same page. And we just established from day one, and we rallied around our team mantra. It was new era. Like, Oklahoma had their era, and those athletes are absolutely incredible. But now it's time for like a new era. It's time for Stanford to come in and start our like domination of the NCAA circuit, and that's what we did.
Yeah.
In the first day of practice, we were just like on the forefront of our mind is the NCAA championship, which was months and months away. I guess we start practice in September, and then the championships are April, like middle to end of April. And from the first day of practice, we're like, that's how you win a championship, or you know just every single day. That's the forefront of your mind. Is like every turn that you take from the start is with the goal of making the team better for the end result of the championship. So, it worked out. We that that year was, I mean, that team retreat was such a big catalyst for the for the success and for the culture of the team
Yeah.
for the next 6 years. But it was the best experience ever. I couldn't have asked for a better college experience.
What would I have seen, Ian? Because you talk about that culture a lot, but what would I have seen in terms of the gymnastics if I was to come and watch one of your training sessions back in 2019 or 2020, and I was to walk in and be a fly on the wall and see a training session at Stanford? What would that look like? And what were some of the things that you were doing that were maybe different to some of the other college teams at that time in terms of the actual gymnastics, maybe the hours you were training, the structure of your sessions, maybe an emphasis on certain skills or apparatus? What would have been some of those things I would have seen culturally from a gymnastics standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say because I've only really experienced training with those guys, but um, I think a big part is just, I mean, it sounds a little counterintuitive and maybe a little contradictory because I'm saying like every single turn we take, like we have the vision of winning the championship
Hmm.
in mind. But at the same time, it's like we don't really take ourselves too seriously.
Okay.
Try to have fun in the gym, um, joke around with each other, have challenges like um, helping each other out, just trying to keep like a light, positive environment in the gym. Of course, there's time, especially as you approach the end of season, for taking it super seriously, putting a ton of pressure on yourself.
Okay.
But usually I don't know, it's pretty fun. Like it's a great environment just to be in. And I think creating an environment um, that you do that makes it easy to push yourself and work hard is pretty key, especially when you're gonna for sustainability. Like if you want to have a program that does perform well over 6 years, you can't hate your life and hate gymnastics
Yeah.
like that long, pushing yourself, driving yourself into the ground. You gotta love it. You gotta enjoy it. So it makes it easier when you're around a bunch of people who make it fun. That
What's it
might that
like,
might be a
Ian?
differentiator for
Yeah.
us.
What's it like, Ian, when you're someone that started making content, right? And typically in gymnastics, a culture would see maybe, and maybe in the US that might be more typical from a women's side of the sport, but it would be quite authoritarian and like you follow the rules and somebody coming in and creating content. I remember the reaction to when Niall Wilson started doing that in the UK was a little bit like, what's this guy doing? Like, this is serious. We're like training for something and he's trying to make these videos online. Was there any pushback initially when you started creating content, and when did you start that? Ian, what was that? What was the catalyst, I guess, for you getting into making gymnastics content?
Yeah, well, I started during COVID, like right after we got shut down,
Okay.
right after we basically got kicked off of campus, got sent back home, reminiscing about our season got cut short. We were looking to win our second championship in a row. It was approaching the end of season. So it was really disappointing. Just looking back at old videos, reminiscing, and basically started throwing everything at the wall to see what stuck. My teammate Riley Luce, who maybe
Yeah.
he actually started posting maybe a year prior to that, and he grew a pretty good following of 200 something thousand. Had a few videos go super viral. I always thought it was cool, but I never really started trying until COVID happened, and during that time, this is like in isolation, so I wasn't around any of my friends or training much or anything like that. Just using old footage,
Okay.
and yeah, throwing everything at the wall to see what stuck. Like my videos when I started were so bad. I had no idea what I was doing. Gradually, through an evolutionary process, got better and better. But once we returned to campus and started training, yeah, people. I think the coaches saw it as a distraction,
Mm-hmm.
and I think my teammates at first didn't really get it either.
Okay.
They give you crap. You're with a bunch of college guys. Like you give each other crap for everything. Um, but the coaches weren't a fan. Definitely at the start,
All right.
would discourage it, not want me to film anything during practice, which was understandable. So I would come to the open gyms that we would have twice a week and film content there.
Right.
It started to change once during the World Championships. I want to say I can't remember if it was the 2021 or 2022 Worlds. I think it was the 2022 Worlds. My coach comes back and he's like, Ian, what the heck? Why does everyone know who you are? I'm not the best gymnast in the world or anything. It's like everyone at World Championships was like asking about you. They knew who you were, and all the kids were asking if you were here. It's like, why does everyone know who you are? I was like, oh, it's because social media. It's like, how many followers do you have? And I don't know, maybe at the time I had like 500,000 or something. And I told him, and he's like, huh. Like walks off. You could see him kind of thinking, and his goal, like mine, has always been to grow the sport
Okay.
and get as many eyes on the sport as much as possible. He sees it in a different light than I do, and has different strengths that he focuses on. A lot of like rule changes, things like that.
Yeah.
But I think after that, my coaches started to understand the impact that it can have on the community, and started being more supportive of it. And my teammates also, once they saw, like, especially you can make a living from it, like, okay,
Yeah.
I can't give them that much crap anymore,
Yeah. Was there like a first clip or video that started to get a bit of traction where you were like, okay, maybe I'm onto something now? You talked about just throwing things at the wall until they stuck. Was there any kind of strategy in the beginning, Ian? Like, were you looking at the analytics of things? Were you thinking about, okay, what time am I posting this? Was there any of that? Or was it just a case of trial and error? I enjoy this, let's just see what happens. And then once you saw a bit of evidence of success, you kind of went, okay, can I replicate this? How did that work in the beginning?
It was really it was not very scientific.
Okay.
It was very just dumping a bunch of crap into the ether and seeing what it came back with. I the thing that I did think worked was just moving very fast. A lot of people get analysis paralysis, and they'll spend forever trying to think what video to post. But I would just go through my old videos, watch one, and be like, okay, like, mm, how can I frame this in a way that people who've never seen gymnastics might enjoy, or something like that. And I would post. One summer I posted 3 times a day, and I just posted so much that it gave me really good intuition about what people like to watch,
Okay.
how to hold people's attention, things like that. And what was your question? Sorry.
So it was just about that, Ian. So like, was there a process, and what was the first
Oh
video
yeah,
that
first video.
really kind of like you went, okay, right, there's something to this, like it's working a little
Yeah,
bit?
that's right. Yeah, the first video. So it took a while, and people asked me about my growth, and a lot of people during COVID, when TikTok and other platforms were really just making a huge surge, they would grow to millions of followers in a few weeks, right? I never had anything like that. I
Okay.
was always super, super steady growth the whole time. It was very linear. And I think that might be a good thing. But to answer your question, yeah, the first video that I really was like, okay, there might be something here. Because at least in the US, you're kind of told a lot implicitly that there's not a market for men's gymnastics.
Okay.
You can't find on TV. It's other than the Olympics. No one really pays too much attention to it. All of our competitions are empty. Not many spectators. So it feels like there's not a market for it. I posted a video very early on of just my pommel horse routine at the time, and it got like 1.3 million views, which right now like doesn't seem like a ton, but at the time I was like, this is game changing. I posted a 40-50 second video of literally just me doing gymnastics, and I had music over it, but I had no commentary, no
Okay.
text on the screen, nothing. And I was like, if this can go viral, then people must be interested in gymnastics.
Yeah.
And I got so many comments too that were like, what sport is this? I didn't even know this was a sport, or like men do gymnastics. So many questions like that. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, people just don't know that this is even out there. It was such a good proof of concept, because it's like, if we can just expose as many people as possible to this sport, I think that will go so far,
Mm.
because just so many people haven't even been exposed to it. Like, where can you even watch men's gymnastics other than once every 4 years on the Olympics? It's not a sustainable way to grow a sport, which I've always known, especially like maybe I've never really articulated it, but I've definitely known intuitively like it's very difficult to get new fans in gymnastics
Yeah.
if you only see it once every 4 years. Like that's what everyone says. Oh, you do gymnastics? I love watching gymnastics at the Olympics.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, have you ever interacted with the sport outside of once every 4 years? So that really became my North Star very early on is gorilla get as many eyeballs on the sport as
Mm.
possibly can. And I think I've been successful in that in large part.
And was that you mentioned a few times, Ian, that like your audience that you were targeting was people that hadn't seen gymnastics before. So was that the idea behind the content was this isn't for gymnastics fans or people that are already well educated in the sport. This is for people that have not seen it before, and that's kind of like where I'm aiming. That's where I'm aiming this content to. That's where I want it to deliver.
Of course, yeah, you
Yeah.
have to. I mean, if you're aiming it towards male gymnasts, you'll have an audience of a couple dozen. So, unfortunately, until it grows more, but of course, yeah, you have to aim for the lay audience, and that's what I always tell my friends. I mean, it's tricky because on one hand, you want to make content that you like and that is interesting to you and
Mm,
interesting to your friends, and you don't want to feel like you're dumbing it down too much, but also you want to reach a larger market than just people who are immersed in the sport. So a lot of times when people start making content, it's like the captions like or on this text on the screen, oh I tried to make my triple Tkachev sequence into my blah blah blah. It's like no one knows this jargon. You got to
okay.
dumb it
Yeah. Yeah.
down for these people. You got to frame it in terms of in some way that people understand. Usually, boiling it down to some simple story. I got a lot of crap for this, but at the beginning, I would do a lot of videos that are like, my coach said if I don't make this move, I have to run a mile or whatever, because it's really the lowest common denominator of storytelling. It's like an authoritative figure, your coach, gives you some sort of ultimatum
Mm,
if you don't do this one task successfully. Like everybody in the world can relate to that. It's
yeah.
like the very, very lowest basic form of storytelling, but it's so much more relatable than saying like, uh, you know, I have to get at least an 8.5 execution in this routine that I'm trying a 6.4 difficulty value in,
Yeah.
and I'm adding in my top half Coleman. Like, it's cool to me, but no one else is gonna understand it. But you definitely have to. If your goal is the same as mine, and to build like a large audience and to get people interested in the sport, you have to tell a story. You have to tell a story that lay the lay audience can understand. And I think gradually, as people watch more, you can use a little more jargon. But
Mm.
yeah, that's a mistake that a lot of gymnasts that are trying to make content go into when they first start.
Yeah, that's really interesting, Ian. That's a really, I think, valuable piece of insight because now you've had that success. And when you do look at the numbers that you have in terms of your following, they are massive numbers, right? So I imagine you get a lot of other gymnasts come to you and say, hey, Ian, how did you do it? How can I do it? Would you say that that's probably one of the biggest pieces of advice that you give people that are starting out that maybe want to do something like you? It's make sure you're catering to the right audience or you're very clear with the goal that you set out to do. I guess like on our podcast, it's interesting that you're getting me thinking straight away because maybe I don't think enough about who's listening on the other side of the microphone or who's watching on the other side of the screen. And yeah, I guess I'm always going to be talking to keen gymnastics fans, but how do I talk to somebody that maybe has a bit of an interest but doesn't know the sport? And if maybe you make it too complicated from the beginning, you scare them off and you kind of want them to come in, right? What are those,
Mhm.
if you were to give a young Ian some advice and you were just getting started, what would be those pieces of advice that you would give someone just starting out, wanting to do something similar to you?
Yeah, I do this all the time, and it's something that I'm passionate about. I love helping my teammates, other gymnasts do this because, well, firstly, I feel like when you're doing it, it's easy, maybe kind of similar to the cultural mindset we were talking about previously. And, maybe it's just something ingrained in me from my experience at Stanford, I guess. But it's easy to think when you see someone like another gymnast coming up and making content. I feel like it's easy for your caveman part of your brain to be like, oh, this is competition. Like I need to outperform them, blah blah blah. Or like they're taking like it's easy to feel just like in a visceral reaction that they're taking away from your pie,
Yeah.
right? But in reality, it's completely not the case. They're just growing the pie. Like for example, Koi Young, who is like one of my best friends, and we make content together all the time, and we've we'll go into the gym and help each other with videos and um, collaborate on a ton of videos. But it's very clear from working with him that it just grows like the men's gymnastics
Yeah.
content like market. People will see me and then Koi will be in a video and they'll go watch Koi and they're like, oh, I've seen or even if they just stumble upon his videos, like, oh, I've seen this before. Like I've
Yeah.
seen gymnastics before online. Like this is cool. I want to watch it. And then same thing, vice versa. They see Koi for the first time, and then they see my profile. Like, oh, cool. Like it just grows the pie for everyone. The more people are doing it. So I really encourage every ideally every gymnast to post content or I mean it's not everyone. It's not for everyone. Like it's not everyone's strength, but if you want to do it, you definitely should do it. But in terms of advice I would give, there's a lot, and I encourage gymnasts who are interested to reach out to me and Instagram DMs or whatever, and I'm happy to give some further advice. But um, one thing I would say is a lot of people go into it with the goal of like I want to make money, I want to make a career, and that's just not a sustainable way usually to do things. Unfortunately, like it's not a good motivator. When I started in 2020, you couldn't make a nickel from your name, image, and likeness for because of NCAA regulations. That changed in July of 2021, where you're finally able to make any money on social media. At that
Right.
time, I wasn't really that big, so I wasn't really making much money anyway. But it really took me, many years to make any meaningful revenue. But I think a lot of people they go into like, oh, like there's so much money in the creator economy. I'm gonna do this because I want to make money. I want to extra money in college, or I hate my job, but I want to move into this. And it's like it can be a good motivator, but it takes so much time before it's so much time investment before you're able to see any
Yeah.
returns. So you have to like it. You have to enjoy it. Otherwise, it's not going to be sustainable. It's like having a diet. If you start a diet and you're like, oh, I want to lose 10 pounds. I'm just I'm only gonna drink water and eat vitamins until I lose 10 pounds or whatever. You're never gonna do that. That sucks.
Yeah.
You're not gonna be able to make it sustainable. But if it's like something easier, like I'm just going to cut out soda or whatever. Maybe this isn't a good analogy, but something that you have to make it sustainable. It has to be something that you like to do. Um, the other piece of advice I usually give is um, this copy me. I mean, obviously, what I've done isn't the only thing that works, and I'm still learning every day. Obviously, all the time I'm learning new things and still experimenting, trying new things. But I've feel like I've made a very good template of what works for men's gymnastics. And I think people are scared sometimes of like, you don't want to copy someone and things like that. But I've, like I said, over 4 years, just threw everything at the wall, see what sticks, and yeah, found out what works. And
Yeah.
like, I I want everyone to be able to leverage what I found like just as much as I can. Um, obviously everyone has their own style, and I encourage everyone to bring their own style. But yeah, definitely use my stuff as inspiration. Use that as a starting point because a lot of the stuff that I do works, and a lot of the stuff that I post as inspiration I found from other people, like other sports or other creators from different industries or whatever. So yeah, that's a big one. Don't feel like you're copying me. Just
Yeah.
I mean, use your own footage and everything, but like use my concepts, all of that stuff. It just it makes it better for everyone. It grows the pie. Other tips, yeah, just practice. Like your like a lot of creators say, your first 100 videos are probably gonna suck. You're just gonna have to keep pushing out keep pushing out content. Every video try to improve something a little bit more and more. I think I've posted, I lost count, somewhere around 3,000 videos the past 4 years. So it's been a lot, and I still learn every day. I still have videos that will flop that I think are gonna do well, and all of that. But yeah, I encourage you to reach out if you are a creator and you want more advice.
Do you think it's important, Ian, if you're going to get into content creation and, essentially most of content creation is storytelling, right? That you pick the right way the right version of storytelling for you. And what I mean by that is like, I have a podcast, right? So it's conversation. A lot of the videos that you do, right? A video footage of gymnastics or your gymnastics or other gymnastics, and you do voiceover over the top of them. Everybody might have a different way of telling their story. Do you think that's very important in finding out, okay, where do my strengths lie and how can I play to them?
Yeah, of course, everyone has their own style and their own strengths. Like I was very uncomfortable. I mean, I still am uncomfortable with like being in front of a camera
Okay.
and talking to the camera, which is counterintuitive and like goofy to most people because like this is literally your job. Like, what are you talking about? You're in front of millions of people uh, doing wacky stuff on the internet. But like actually, like what's up YouTube today? Where like I cannot do it. I'm so bad. It's like whenever I have to film an intro for a video, it's like the hardest thing ever for me. Like I try, but I get around it, and I've been able to be successful like without being good at it. Like I've only recently started trying to like talk to the camera more,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean you just got to play to your strengths like anything else. Or like gymnastics, you don't if you suck at front upright skills, you just do one and then you focus on your
Yeah.
underbar
Yeah.
and support skills, or, whatever on P bars. Yeah, play to your strengths. There's no reason to not. I don't know.
What would you say? And obviously, you've been successful with the content creation that you're doing, right? And you also have the credibility of being an athlete yourself, which massively helps, right? You're not somebody that's not from the sport. You also are good at gymnastics, and you've competed at a very high level. For you, what do you feel like with the content creation that you've got and the credibility that you bring to it? What do you think sets you apart from everybody else that's tried to do this and it's not worked, if that makes sense? Because I see people all the time starting a new Instagram, getting a new Instagram page, starting again, getting a new handle, starting a new YouTube channel. I've done it myself in the past, right? Started a new series on YouTube, and I might have done that 4 or 5 or 6 times. What is that determining factor that is a difference you feel having got to the point now where you are successful and you've probably been around other people and content creators that are successful, and those, the 99 people that give up after
Right.
5 minutes of trying? Like, what is that thing that makes the difference in the end? Is it just keep going no matter what? Is that the big thing, you think? Or is it a mindset thing that those types of people seem to share? What do you think that is?
Yeah, I think it's two things. I think they're closely related. Um, I think it's the perseverance, like you kind of hinted on, just continuing no matter even not getting discouraged, being able to if I say I'm going to post once a day or 3 times a day like I did for a whole summer, you know I went on vacation. I probably, looking back, I probably shouldn't have done this, but like I went on vacation. I was in Hawaii for like a week, and I still posted 3 times a day. Like it's like, come on, dude, you gotta relax at some point. But that was the most I've ever seen, the fastest growth I've ever seen on my channel at that time. On TikTok anyway. I was only on TikTok at that time. So yeah, on one hand, definitely the perseverance, and on the other hand, which I think allows me to achieve that without getting discouraged, is I love it. I really like it. It's always been like I love gymnastics. It's my passion, and I feel like I'm able to bring it to a new audience that has an appreciation for it, or at least have them appreciate it in a different light. And it's like the best job in the world, and way before I even thought I could make a career, even get paid on it, like legally before I could even get paid with it. Like I still, I loved it. It was like going into the gym like with my best friends and just making videos that like at the end of the day, I still just want that feeling to come across in my videos. I
Yeah,
mean, it's not even much higher production value than it was back then. It's just me and my iPhone, like, yo, do it again. That was hilarious. Or like,
yeah,
yo, try this. It's just me goofing around with my friends in a lot of my videos at the end of the day, and that's just what's really really fun to me. And also, back when I first started, I would do a lot of highlighting other gymnasts, and it was less centered around myself. Excuse me. It was less centered around myself, and I would do a lot of kind of like gymnastics highlights and um, try to try to just showcase the sport more. And then I kind of gradually got more comfortable posting myself, and then more comfortable talking to the camera and things like
yeah,
that. But um, yeah, to answer your question, I think the thing that set me apart is just I really enjoyed it. It was
yeah,
fun for me, and because of that, I was able to persevere through lack of results, through discouragement from friends and coaches, and all of that. Is like I don't know, I like it, so
yeah. Tell
kept
me about
going.
your own ambitions then, Ian, because you're still a gymnast, right? You're not retired, but you spend most of your time kind of promoting everybody else. Do you still have your own ambitions in the sport? You're obviously going to go on the tour in the US. Tell us a little bit about that tour as well, and what people might expect if they come along and they watch a show. I know you're going to be, I think you said 30 dates, which sounds incredible. I think there's a lot of international gymnasts going to be there, so I'm sure for you, you're thinking, wow, money's in. There's lots of content I can create around this and reach new audiences. But yeah, what are your own ambitions now in the sport? You're helping promote it and showcase it. Was there part of you in Paris that was like, I wish I was there competing? Yeah, just tell me a little bit about that.
Of course, I wish I was competing. Come on, like it looked insane in like the U.S., especially watching them during team finals crush it. I mean, oh my gosh, it's like I would have given anything to be out there on the floor. Of course, I wanted to compete, but so I stopped training after really like since USA trials a few months ago. I kind of stopped training. I mean, I was traveling so much, so even if I really wanted to, it would have been difficult. But I just got back in the gym like uh really I started Monday of last week, or
Okay.
yeah, I started like 8 days ago, 9 days ago, really training again, seriously, because I got invited to the Gold Over America tour, the GOAT, with starring Simone Biles and a bunch of other amazing gymnasts are going, and like Brody, Yule, Shane, like all those guys. Um, so I'm gonna go do that. I leave tonight for to go do rehearsals in LA, and yeah, you guys should come. Everyone watching, it should be like a really amazing performance, really cool show. It's gonna be a bunch of it's gonna be spectacular for sure. So I encourage you all to come watch it. I don't want to give too much away, but in terms of my future gymnastics goals, Still figuring it out. I'm pretty injured. I'm pretty old. I feel old anyway.
How
Turning
old are you, Ian?
25.
25, that's still young, my friend.
Turning 25 in a few days, and I don't know, my body hurts. I'm enjoying life outside of
Okay,
gymnastics, but I do love the sport. I miss aspects of it, so we'll see. I don't foresee doing anything too seriously competition competitive wise in the
okay.
future, but
Yeah.
who knows?
I'm, I'm
We'll see.
I'm guessing is there a big drop off at around the age that maybe you're at now, Ian, in the year or the 2 years following university, where if you're not going to go down that elite path, are there a lot of male gymnasts in the US that will kind of the end of their university or college career will be the end of their career and their peak? Is that quite common in America?
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the stat. I don't know exactly off the top of my head, but it's like 1% of college athletes will go pro.
Right. Okay.
And it's pretty true in gymnastics also. There's pretty few gymnasts who will continue to stick around training for the or whatever other competition after graduation. So I did for 1 year, and then it's like, am I really going to go to 2028? I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't think so. I feel old already. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard. Like, I'm gonna miss it, but at the same time, I feel like I have other passions and ambitions I can
Yeah.
pursue outside of just competing.
Yeah. And obviously, you guys are going to have the Olympics in 4 years' time, and as a men's program, you've just won a bronze medal, right? Which was the first time since Beijing in 2008. What was it like watching that competition? And talk to us a little bit about, you know, Stephen obviously had that moment where he's gone viral all over the world, and you talked a little bit before about, all it's doing, raising the profile of the sport is just increasing that pie. Do you feel
Mhm.
like men's gymnastics in America stands a chance now of maybe becoming a little bit more popular with the Olympics taking place in LA in 2028? Obviously, all of that huge fan base that comes to the sport because of Simone Biles, you hope that some of that's going to trickle into people watching men's gymnastics, right? And then the US men
Mhm.
have that moment where they win the bronze medal, and then that incredible, like, almost perfect storm of Steven Nedorosik being last up to win them, and he becomes like that viral sensation. Like, does that give you a bit of hope for the future of men's gymnastics in the US? And what was it like being there watching that event and that competition?
Yeah, first of all, being there in person, like the energy was insane. I mean, I think I lost my voice. I was like tearing up. Like, oh my gosh, it was amazing. All the athletes from all the countries, it was amazing to watch, and like the energy was palpable. It was a new experience for sure, especially like the crowd for NCAA. The crowd's super loud, yelling. It's usually like very intimate venue. The Olympics is totally different. It was like this huge venue, and everyone's like silent
Yeah.
almost, and you can just hear the team, like the USA team, yelling, cheering on the guys, and I was screaming at the top of my lungs when the US was going, but it was uh, I don't even know how to put into words. Like, I'm just so glad that I was able to just be there and witness it while they were able to win the medal. And I've been training with Asher this whole time, and then Brody was my class year at Stanford, so he's one of my best friends. I've seen how hard these guys worked every single day, and Koi was on the alternate team, and and I know from them like how hard all of these guys work.
Mm.
I mean, of course, all gymnasts at that level work insanely hard,
Yeah.
but just seeing every day how hard they want it, or how much they want it, and like how hard they're working for it, and seeing them finally like achieve that in person, I couldn't trade anything for it. It was phenomenal. And then your other question was Steve's success. Like, yeah, that's definitely very encouraging. Like, seeing how invested people are getting. But I think that's such a good case study about storytelling. You know, Steve got this viral moment because the broadcast, they were telling a story, like framing it in a way such that it is really interesting to people who don't know anything about gymnastics, which is exactly what I try to do with my videos.
Yeah.
You know, the framing of like he's the sleeper agent that comes in the last second to save the day. That's gold. That's perfect. Like that's a movie. It's amazing. And I think he's been doing a good job of, you know, going to do all the media and writing it out as much as he can, which definitely should be doing. What I wish more gymnasts did, especially at that level, is sell their own story. Uh, just like Steven did. Sometimes you don't have the support of NBC
Yeah.
broadcasters like Steve did, but you know Brody specifically has such an amazing story.
Yeah.
I wish, you know, more people knew about it, like from just like everything with his history and his injury, his comeback. Like, you know, I made a video about it and it did pretty well,
Yeah, I
but
saw that video. That
it's
was
like,
great. Yeah.
thank you. But like all these athletes have these crazy stories that they could really sell. I wish more of them, you know, were interested in
Yeah.
promoting it like on socials or whatever platform that, you know, socials is just what I know. But
What do you think
uh,
holds people back from that, Ian? You know, because you are right. Most athletes have incredible stories, right? Do you think it's that, you know, I was told once that the biggest fear, the most common fear among people is public speaking, right? So it's putting yourself
mm,
out there, talking in front of the camera or being able to tell your story. Like, do you think that is the big thing that holds people back? Do you think it's a fear of maybe, all right, I need to focus on my training and make sure that, you know, I don't want to make mistakes, and I don't want people to say, oh,
hmm
well, he's having these mistakes because he's focusing on it. What do you think that is? Do you think it's maybe that fear of putting yourself out there and telling your story in the first place? Because you are right, like, Brody has an amazing story, right?
I think it's a lot of that. I think mostly, especially with Brody, I think mostly people just don't really care or don't really have too much of an interest. And sorry, Brody, if I'm putting words in your mouth. I just, you know, I don't think he really cared that much until, for a lot of these athletes, I don't think they care until they see the opportunity. And at that point, it's usually too late. Like,
Right, okay.
okay, now I've made the Olympic team. Or like, I would, you know, when I was in Paris, I hung out with the guys right after team finals. And they came up to me like, dude, Ian, what do I do now? Like to post like how do I? I'm like, bro, you gotta make hay while the sun is shining. You know,
Yeah,
you need to post as many videos as you can. Just mention the Olympics. I wrote up a little like text document, and I put in like a bunch of just basic like prompts or ideas, and like sent it to some of the guys. Like, dude, just like here's some ideas. Literally, just post anything with the medal or with Olympics, and because at the time, like the Olympic hype was at its peak, and if you just mentioned Olympics or you're an Olympian, you get like 10 million views. Like, dude, just post anything. It doesn't matter. And just show your medal, show the Olympics, whatever. Just it was like so.
yeah,
It was like you're sitting on a gold mine right
yeah,
now. You just have to just materialize it and put it out there. So you know, it's almost frustrating.
yeah,
Just because I from being in the industry for so long, I was like, I see how much potential there is
yeah,
here. You guys are sitting on a gold mine.
yeah.
Like, just do it. But I think at that point, it's like you don't really know how because you just, you know, I've been doing it for forever. It's like once you see the opportunity, it's like you don't really even know at that point how to do it. So there's definitely like an interest, but yeah, normally when what I've seen usually is when people identify the opportunity, it's already like
Yeah.
too difficult to start,
Yeah,
or
and you
like
maybe need a
you just don't
moment
know
like
how.
Steven for it to work. And then
Mm-hmm.
every now and then you can get an outlier that just comes out of nowhere and it works and it's the perfect situation. And you've got everybody back in the US watching. And, you know, I was told by Kensley Beal, who has the Neutral Deduction podcast, that somebody in the
Mm-hmm.
production team had the idea to put a timer on the bottom of the TV screen so people could follow the timer all the way until Steven's pommel routine, which raised the tension, which again comes back to that storytelling. So, yeah, you almost have to be prepared for almost prepare for the moment before the moments happen. So when the moment happens, you're ready to go. And it's interesting that you say that a lot of athletes should maybe share their story more. Did you ever have the opportunity while you were in Paris, Ian, to chat to Brody between qualification and then the team final? Because he obviously had a really rough day in qualification. And then I imagine there was a lot of pressure on his shoulders going into the team final. And they maybe made a few changes to his routines on some of the apparatus, but he still competed on a lot of apparatus considering the mistakes he had. Did you have the chance to speak to him between that or not?
No, I did
No.
not want to
Mess with mess with his
mess with them
mindset or
at
anything.
all.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to interfere at all with like any of the athletes until after they were done for the most part. Um, so I saw them all after team finals, and then yeah, Steve was the only one with the event final, and then I guess I actually didn't see Paul and Fred because they're in the all around final, which was the next day.
Yeah.
But saw them after. But yeah, I didn't want to mess with Brody, or like I'm sure he already had enough on his plate to deal with than me texting him like, "Hey man, you okay?"
Yeah.
So but also like I know Brody so well, and I know how he competes so well. Like we compete together for so long, and I knew that this is like almost, well, first of all, I've never really seen the nerves get to Brody. I mean, I don't know if that's what happened. Sorry, Brody, if you're watching this and that's not what happened. But that's what it seemed like. And I thought he just wasn't feeling well. It was because I heard there's a case of people eating like undercooked chicken, and a lot of the team and coaches in one of the hotels like got sick.
Right.
But I think it was like a few days before. So I was wondering if Brody was still feeling, or if Brody was feeling sick or something. But I think he just had an off day. But knowing Brody, you know, he's done that in the past for like other competitions, you know, smaller than the Olympics, of course. And he just gets angry, and he gets this fire, and he comes back like nothing I've ever seen before. And you know, everyone was worried. Like we qualified, I think, sixth going into finals, and people were like, "Yeah, we're supposed to win a medal, and now we're not. Now we're like ranked six, and uh, you know, GB and Ukraine and all of these other countries like are gonna beat us." Blah blah blah. I'm like, hold on, but Brody is gonna be mad, and you know, when Brody is mad, and when this happens, at least in the past, he will he just turns it on.
Yeah.
You know, he is one of those athletes that he
Sometimes
I don't even
sometimes
know.
athletes need a bit of adversity, don't they? You know, like he's obviously had the
Mhm.
injuries in the past, and sometimes that brings the best out of athletes, that adversity. And sometimes
He's
when it's going all, you know, for some athletes, when everything's going fine, actually struggle in those moments. They kind of need a bit of pressure and a bit of adversity to really bring out their best performances.
Yeah, and I've trained with so many amazing athletes, and you know, a ton of high level athletes, Olympians. Uh, I went through the Olympic trials like training process in 2021. Um, so I was training at a high level with these incredible athletes, and there's been no one like Brody.
Right.
Brody's on another level. Like I can't say one bad thing about the guy. He's an amazing person too. But as a gymnast and a competitor, it's like it's something else. I
Yeah.
don't know. He's on another level. So I knew when he had a rough day on quals that he was going to turn it around and just, completely knock it out of the park. And I think he did definitely a really good job coming back. So
Yeah, it was amazing. There must have been a lot of pressure on his shoulders. Ian,
yeah.
that last gymnast I want to talk about and just get your insights on is: do you think Fred Richard has the potential to become a superstar, like a household name in the US? You know, he's very good at telling his story, right? And he's good at creating content online. He also matches that up by being a very, very good gymnast that has a lot of potential and is still very young. Do you think there is the opportunity there for him if he can continue having that success and telling his story uh, in a very clever way, that he could become a superstar in men's gymnastics that maybe we've not had before? Because, when I think about the iconic gymnasts now in the present and in the past, I'm thinking of Simone Biles, Nadia Comaneci. I don't really think of a male gymnast, right, that's transcended just the community within the sport. And like this games, right, the face of the Olympic Games was Simone Biles. Like,
Mhm.
do you think Fred has the capabilities of being somebody like that, or at least a superstar in the sport?
Of course. Yeah. He's amazing. I mean, it's really nice to see someone who's at such a high level in the sport take like the marketing aspect of their own brand and of the sport so seriously. And I think he's been killing it. Yeah, he's so young. I think he's 21, right?
Yeah, I think he's,
Um
2021.
2021. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I only started when I was 20, I think. Like so he's already eons ahead of I was when I was that age. So yeah, I have no doubt he's just going to continue to skyrocket. Um, Hopefully he has some downtime now. He's going to be on the tour, so hopefully we can make a bunch of good content while we're there. But yeah, I mean, he's got the ambition, he's got the drive. I mean, yeah, I think he has all the constituent parts. I think it's just going to take time,
Yeah.
honestly. But yeah, I think he can definitely do it.
Amazing. Ian, I'm going to be quite selfish now and ask you for some tips
Okay.
on a high bar skill that you're very good at. I'm trying to learn a Marinich, okay?
Oh God,
All right.
why?
And I've got a bit of an idea in my head that I've had for years um, of how to adapt that skill and potentially come up with a brand new skill. What tips would you give me, Ian, for trying that skill, trying to learn it? Where are the places that I'm probably going to make some mistakes as I'm learning that skill? Because I'm quite happy doing it from a swing, but the idea of doing that action from a giant frightens the hell out of me. So if you could give me
Why are
some
you trying
tips
to
for that
learn
skill,
it?
mate, that would be very, very helpful, because I know you're very good at that skill and I enjoy watching you do that skill. It's a cool skill, right? Not many people do it.
Thanks. What makes you want to learn it?
I find it fun. I don't know what it is, but
Mm,
the feeling of there are certain skills in gymnastics that I just love the feeling of doing. Like a Gatson on parallel bars is one of them.
mm,
I love doing a Kovac. I think when I do a really smooth Kovac, it's just like a hot knife through butter. It's beautiful. I love it.
yeah.
But I think the feeling of doing, like, obviously letting go for a catch-F before the bar, but then doing a somersault back on yourself, just the biomechanics of how you move in the air. Like, I love that feeling. It feels like such a cool skill. So yeah, that's kind of why I want to do it, just for fun, mate. Like, I just go to the gym now just for fun. I'm a new dad, so I don't sleep much, and I get to the gym for maybe
Congratulations.
an hour every 2 weeks. But the one thing I love to do is still swing on the high bar. So yeah, any tips you've got for me for that skill, mate, would be
Yeah, I'll give
massively
you tips, but I
appreciated.
want tips on the Oldham, the double quas.
The double cross, the one arm. I know, I sent that skill in and they basically said that's way too dangerous. And then they then chose to make a new rule that was that nobody could do a new one arm skill on high bar. And I was like,
Yeah,
come on,
I
guys, like,
remember.
this is a cool skill. It's a cool skill to watch, right? Like, it was a very different skill, but yeah, they just said it was too dangerous. And the frustrating
Yeah.
thing was that the guy that made that decision was from the UK as well. And I was like, come on,
Mm.
like, surely you could use your influence here. If you're going to use your influence anywhere, come on, let me get my
Oh
skill.
man.
But yeah. Yeah, any tips,
Yeah, I
mate, on
remember
Marine Itch would
seeing
be
it
great.
like forever. I mean, what was it, like 2017 or something?
Yeah, a long time ago, mate. Yeah, it was a long time
Yeah.
ago when I
I
kind of,
remember seeing it. I was like, this skill's so cool.
yeah.
Um, but for Marinich, Shao Ruji in the code, it's I think a big thing I think about. It's real okay. It's really not. it shouldn't be a scary skill. People always say like how do you do that skill? Oh, hit my mic. It's like how do you do that skill? It's so scary. It's like it's really the only scary part is like catching at the bottom and peeling and like landing weird on the mat.
Okay.
But you should never hit the bar or at least like hit your face on the bar, which is really what like before I did the skill I was worried about. Because if this is the bar,
Yep.
your head just goes around this way. Like it would be very, very hard unless you really just confuse Takachev and Xiao Ruji. It would be really hard to hit your head on the bar.
Okay.
It's always gonna go around. So worst case, you hit your like your chest or
Right.
something,
Okay.
which I've never done. I've done a million of them. I've never even hit my chest on the bar. Like sometimes I catch pretty close, but
Yeah.
um, and so to make sure that you are safe first and foremost. And the easiest way to do it consistently that I think about is when I get to a point to where I'm at like my maximum extension,
Yep.
and then I like block off the bar this way is what it feels
So you
like.
physically push
So
off the bar.
yeah, like I before I yeah, from the point of when my arms are up on the bar and like right before I let go and bring them down. I just give it like a little block.
Okay.
And I think if you've ever done Jaeger, it's kind of the same.
Okay.
Like it's really hard to just do a Jaeger and like do the tap and just let go and flip and have that be consistent, like catching it every time.
Yeah.
Like I did Balabanov layout Jaeger and that skill's terrible. It's super scary.
Yeah.
But the way for that, like to do it consistent, is you do the tap and then you have to look at the bar and then last second like block
Okay.
with your shoulders, and that you're able to make these like last minute adjustments when maybe your tap is a little faster, a little slower. Same for Marinich. Um, you're able to make those adjustments with that last little block on the bar. It gives you more height, more time, and when you do it like that, you hit this point because you hit this point where like this is now your radius.
Yeah.
You're never gonna you can't go towards the bar
Okay.
really
Right. Yeah.
anymore
Yeah.
than
That makes
Like,
sense. Yeah. Yeah.
and that's how you have it like the same distance every
Yeah.
time and yeah, don't hit the bar or anything. So that's probably my biggest tip.
That's very useful, mate. That's helpful because
I
yeah,
hope so,
my biggest
but
fear is my teeth and the bar connecting. So yeah,
no. As
that's my
long as
big
you don't,
fear.
as long as you can compartmentalize the Shaoriji from
A
Tkachev, you
normal
should be
catcher.
fine.
Yeah. Does it just feel
Yeah.
like when you go from a giant? Does it just feel like you're going really early?
Well, I do the like tongue fade tap
Okay.
for like the fast tap
Yeah.
for Tkachev, so it's easier to differentiate for
Okay.
me. But I feel more. Yeah, I mean, you could think about like going really early. I think about it more like just dropping my chest down
Okay.
first instead of Kachev. I would do more of like a pike
Okay.
before
Yeah. So
I
use
push
more of your
out.
chest, less of your feet. And then last thing, Ian, can you ever forward giant out of it when you do it? You can.
Yeah, I've done like the unofficial Gunther when I was training that I was trying to do because the kip out looks so stupid. I
Yeah.
think
Yeah. Yeah.
so. I was I was trying to do it to where I could giant out. And I could do it maybe 30% of the time,
Mm.
maybe a little bit more, but it's very difficult to
Yeah.
do it well, especially like I'll be very like bent body up, and the ones I do well, it's pretty much because I fingertip catch it.
Okay. So you have to be in that perfect little sweet spot to catch and then giant out.
Yeah, it's a little bit easier with the straddle because you can get more rotation.
Okay.
So I can giant out of that one,
Yeah.
maybe a little bit more, but it's really cool when I do it.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
yeah, it's very difficult. I don't think I could ever compete it just because you get so much deduction from the giant
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
But maybe one day someone will do it.
Well, thank you for the tips, mate. If you're ever in the UK, you can come and you can help me. We'll do a training session.
I would love to. That'd be
and we
so
could do
fun. I'll
another
let you know.
do another podcast in person. But yeah, thank you, mate. Thank you for coming on today, giving us your time. I know it's very, very early where you are in the
No,
States,
it's not
so
that
I
bad.
appreciate it and enjoy the tour. And more than anything, yeah, thank you for doing what you're doing to showcase the sport, raise the profile. Like you said, a rising tide lifts all boats. It does help everybody. It helps me on the podcast. And hopefully, yeah, people enjoy this episode. I'm sure they will, hearing your story, and take something away if they're thinking about maybe getting into content creation. We have a lot of athletes that listen to this podcast as well. Lots of gymnasts that are still competing. So maybe they listen to your advice and maybe start telling their story a little bit more themselves. But yeah, thank you, mate. Take care and enjoy the tour.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for what you're doing with the community also, having this podcast. But yeah, if you're a gymnast or anyone, my DMs are open, mostly Instagram, so feel free to reach out.
Amazing, mate. And where can people find you, Ian?
Yeah, my socials are usually some permutation of my name, like Ian Gunther or Ian.Gunther or something. Should be able to find me. And yeah, I don't really have too much to pump. Watch my videos. Hope you like them. Oh, I'm wearing I got some merch now. Got a little
What
shirt.
is that?
It's a little,
Was it honey?
Honey bottle.
Oh, okay.
So
nice.
Little P-bar callback, and then there's a little thing on the back too. But
oh, amazing, man. That looks cool. You'll have to send me one. I'll wear it on the podcast.
Check my link in my bio if you want one. I guess that's all I have to promote.
Oh, amazing, mate. Well, thank you again for your time. You take care, and yeah, all of the best with the tour. Enjoy it. Make loads of content. I'll be watching. And yeah, thank you again.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, mate.